So you guys really seem to enjoy my video talking about why I thought The Amazing Digital Circus coming to Netflix was a good decision. And that's just funny to me because that was a very unplanned video. It was unscripted. I was not prepared for it. I kind of just started talking until my brain shut off. And you know what? I love doing that. I love just kind of ranting and raving about a specific topic with no clear goal in mind. So you know what? Let's try that again because I have another thing I'd like to kind of rant and discuss. Something that I've been seeing pop up in the indie animation community as of late. This thumbnail, how Digital Circus blows Helluva Boss out of the water. This is just funny. This is like, honestly, okay. Why is this a discussion? Like, why are we constantly comparing? Like, I see more people comparing indie shows to each other than I see people comparing things from like Disney or Warner Brothers. I don't know why we now live in a timeline. Like, we live in a timeline where indie animation has never been bigger. We are at a point where The Amazing Digital Circus is literally on Netflix. Something that hasn't been done that often before with an indie project, at least. Like, I'm not saying it hasn't been done before. Like, we've seen like things like Happy Tree Friends and Rooster Teeth shows like Red vs. Blue make their way to Netflix. Those are technically indie, or at least at the time were indie before, you know, they were bought out and no longer were indie. But that's a big deal, and I feel like everyone should be celebrating that. I've seen a lot of people harp on the decision and think that it's a bad idea. I really don't see how. And that's not what this video is about. This is talking about just indie animation as a whole and why people keep feeling the need to compare everything and make it a competition. Indie animation should not be competing for views. Like, yes, I totally understand that indie animation has never been bigger. Like I've said like many times before, we just talked about it when it came to Netflix, but just Digital Circus as a whole, that viewer count is something to be celebrated. And when the pilot first came out, the first thing people did was compare it to Hazbin Hotel's pilot, which I just don't know why, especially considering those are two completely different types of shows aimed at two very different audiences. But nope, people had to compare it because they were the two big indie smash hit pilots. So obviously people are going to compare it, when in reality Gooseworks is literally best friends with VivziePop. So I don't know why people are just like, oh, let's pin these two shows against each other. And you know, I remember watching the Hazbin Hotel pilot go from like 90 million views before the Digital Circus pilot came out to over 100 million, just because people were going to check out the Hazbin pilot, which I mean is not a bad thing. You know, more people are checking out the pilot to see, you know, this is the pilot, this is how, you know, let's see how it compares to the show on Amazon. You know, people went to go check that out. And I mean, technically this was, I think, before Hazbin came to Amazon, but you get my point. People were just comparing the hell out of it, and now it's happening again. We see titles and thumbnails like this comparing indie animation when it really is just something that shouldn't be discussed at all. Most of the people within the indie community are friends with each other. Like, you have people like Zurel, who created Monkey Wrench, which, by the way, guys, if you have not seen Monkey Wrench, go do that. I've been meaning to make a video talking about Monkey Wrench for the longest time, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I plan on that very soon, though. Zurel, I will say, is a incredibly underrated indie creator, because Monkey Wrench realistically doesn't get that many views, but you still see him having his hand at some of the creative process with shows like Digital Circus. Gooseworks is credited for music in Hazbin Hotel. Everyone are friends with each other, and people are taking shows made by people who, don't care about the competing nature of it. They just want to make cool shit, but they're just like, hey, I know you guys are friends and support each other, but here's a reason to fight. And it's so dumb, and I don't know why we can't just get past it and appreciate indie animation for what it is. It is incredibly exhilarating to see such a blossom in this community, because indie animation has been prevalent for many years, ever since Newgrounds was really a thing. I mean, Newgrounds is still a thing, but you get what I'm saying. Back in the day, it was still popular, but now we're at a point where a small indie show is now on Netflix, and that is something that is just mind-blowing to me. It's unfathomable how big indie animation has gotten, and to see people fighting over it. Yes, I get Helluva Boss is not for everyone. VivziePop shows in general aren't for everyone. But you can't just go around and say something is objectively awful, because there is still a large number of people who enjoy that show, and I myself included. I know I've been putting off my Helluva Boss video for so long. I have just been super busy and haven't been able to finish it, but I want it to come out sometime soon-ish, hope. But I like Helluva Boss. I will say that right now. I don't think it's a perfect show. I do have some glaring issues with it, but I have glaring issues with some, many other shows. My favorite show of all time, my favorite show of all time is Breaking Bad. I think that is a near perfect show. But even I will call out something that I think is questionable, something I think could have been done better, which, in the case of a show like that, I kind of have to grasp at straws to really, talk about that, because, it is my favorite show of all time, so I might be a tiny little bit biased, but for the most part, I'm willing to, talk about and discuss things that I wish could be improved on, even in some of my favorite pieces of media. Murder Drones, for example. You guys saw my review, or at least I'm hoping a good chunk of you did. I talked about the things I loved, but I also talked about the things I didn't like. Not everything is going to be perfect, so I get, talking about the negatives, but it just feels like people, especially when it comes to VivziePop, I get, I'm not going to go into VivziePop as a person, but it really seems like this is the definition of VivziePop killed my grandma. Literally, people will hate on her for the dumbest of reasons. If you don't like the show she makes, that's fine. It's not for everyone. It is subjective. You don't have to sit down and watch it, but people spend more time shitting on the show than actually watching it. I'm sure most of the people who are actively hating on VivziePop have never even sat down and watched a second of one of their shows, other than the out of context clips they see on Twitter. They're like, oh, they said fuck 5 times, let me hate on it. You don't have to watch it. These are shows made by incredibly talented people who all just want to see the community thrive to heights it's never been to before. And we are instead sitting here looking at numbers and comparing and saying why this show is better than this show. It just isn't a conversation we need to have. We should all be proud of the success of indie animation as a whole. So yeah, that's basically, I just wanted to rant for a little bit. I'm really happy to see Digital Circus doing well. The new episode has like over 30 million views now. That is crazy. But hey, I'm not looking at that number and be like, wow, can Helluva Boss crack that kind of... No, I'm not doing that. I think Helluva Boss gets plenty of views. Again, we shouldn't be comparing. And I feel like I sound like a broken record. I really do. I apologize. I don't know if I'm really going to edit too much of this. Because again, I kind of just wanted to keep talking until I ran out of things to say. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. Because, you know, I feel like I'm saying things just repeatedly. But yeah, what do you guys think? Are you happy to see the success of indie animation? I want to know what you have to say because, you know, we're at a point where it's becoming like the new norm. Not that new norm. Gosh, I'm such an idiot. Okay. That's basically it. I plan on making a video soon talking about the rise of indie animation instead of just talking about kind of like the negative aspect with the competition. But, you know, that's basically all I had to say. Indie animation is not a competition, people.
That's about it. See ya.